Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are going to get started in just a few minutes. We're just going to let a few more people kind of filter in, and then we will kick this off.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi.
Kim.
Hi. I'm just gonna shut my video down just because I am in a place that doesn't have great lighting and I look ghostly at the moment. I
You're
don't
good.
want to frighten anybody off the call. So if you need me on camera, just let me know.
Thank you. We are going to get started in about 1 minute to keep this going. Oops. Welcome, everyone. I know as more people come in, I'm just going to continue the same welcome. Perfect. But with that said, I think let's keep on time, and I feel like we can kick this off. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Ariana Proya, and I am the community organizer at the Charles River Watershed Association. And tonight we're here to talk about the Alder Brook Phase 1 concept designs with the Town of Needham, who is on the call, and our lovely partners at Beta as well. Gabby, if you could to next slide. Yeah. So from tonight, you get to see a little bit of the project team. So myself, who's handling a lot of the community engagement. We have Chris and Phil from Beta, who are our wonderful partners. And then we have Gabby also on the call and a few other people on the call. I don't believe I have everybody, but from the Town of Needham, who are really great with us. Perfect. So I'm going to give you guys just a little bit of background about this project for those of you who don't know. So just kind of going into how did this project start. So this project started because the Town of Needham is a member of the Charles River Climate Compact. And for those of you who don't know, that is the Charles River Regional Climate Compact is a regional partnership of 28 watershed towns and cities focused on climate resilience, which was founded in 2019. In 2020, they developed the Charles River Flood Model to address stormwater flooding at a regional scale. So this is where projects have been identified, site-specific solutions to address local and regional flooding. Slide. Thank you, Gabby. So the group identified the need for a regional flood model, which resulted in the Charles River flood model. And that is a watershed scale interactive GIS map, which based model identifying when and where flooding will occur and watershed-wide strategies to mitigate flooding using nature-based solutions. The project team consists of our climate compact members, Weston and Sampson, crew, and Charles River Watershed staff. So this was the goal to achieve, attempt, commit equitable solutions. And in doing so, we need to have everyone, especially people who are experiencing the climate impacts firsthand, to be a part of the planning and designing and implementation process. So to give you guys a little bit of idea of how we kind of select our priority sites and how Alder Brook became one of our priority sites, we collect a lot of possible site ideas through this kind of process. And once we have the site ideas, we score them based on the project priorities. And those are defined as public support, ecological benefits, possible flood benefits, minimal potential for conflicts, and community benefits. And we particularly try to look at the climate vulnerable populations. Go to the next slide. So for the Alder Brook area, this area was selected as a priority project in the spring of 2024 from CRWA with the town. And as a part of the original project, some concept designs were developed that are being advanced through this project and another project that CRWA and the Town of Needham are partnering on. But today we're just focusing on one of these projects, but hopefully we'll have another meeting in the meantime to kind of give you guys an idea of what that secondary project is going to be. Slide. And I think you have to hit a few things, Gabby, to kind of get. There we go. So as you can see, the gravel lot restoration is the project we're here to talk about tonight. It's circled in that red box. These are the concept designs as for the larger project that were developed in the spring, and the town was so amazing in turning these into very quickly funding proposals to advance these ideas. And we received funding for the DeFazio lot concept. And the second project I mentioned that is just getting started as well will focus on the wetland restoration and stream restoration. So that will be a great complement to the DeFazio lock project, but that is on a slightly different timeline. And so just going to kind of cap the background off. If you guys are a little bit more interested in kind of the concept designs as a whole, for this whole project, you can go onto the CRWA YouTube page and go to the June 2024 Charles River flood model video, and that kind of goes into a little bit more depth on how we kind of got to this process. And then from there, I'm actually going to turn this over to Gabby and to give a little more about this project.
Awesome. Thanks, Ariana. Hi, everyone. I'm Gabby Queenan. For those I haven't met yet, I'm the Sustainability Manager for the Town of Needham. As Ariana said, we are joined tonight by several team members from the Town of Needham, including Justin Savignano, who's our Assistant Town Engineer, Kim Donovan, who's our Compliance Coordinator. I believe I also saw Mike Redsky, who's our Superintendent of Water, Sewer, and Drains. And if I missed anyone else, I apologize. So I'm just going to speak a little bit about the project that we are in particular seeking feedback on this evening, which is the project at the DeFazio parking lot. So as Ariana described, this location was identified by that concept process with CRWA as we were looking for opportunities to address flooding in the Alder Brook area. And so taking a piecemeal approach and looking at this project by project, recognizing that it was going to take several years to implement each of these respective projects and identify funding sources. We started with this project at the DeFazio parking lot. This photo was taken by Chris, one of our wonderful beta team members. So this is the area in question. It's right at the corner of the lot, right next to the tot lot. Most folks know this area because it's often covered in water. There's not great drainage over there right now. So our goal was to identify a funding source to support design for the DeFazio parking lot, green stormwater infrastructure, best management practices. And as I mentioned, the initial goal and the reason why this location was identified was to address an opportunity for reducing localized flooding. But this is a great project because not only is it helping to reduce localized flooding, but it would also help us with some of our treatment for stormwater runoff, helping us reduce phosphorus load, which is a requirement for our federal stormwater permit, our NIPDES permit, and then also help improve water quality. As was mentioned in the very beginning, this lot is right next to Alder Brook, which drains into the Charles River. And I do just want to emphasize that this is just for design funding at this stage. We don't have construction funding identified for this project. This is really step one, square one, right at the beginning. So where are we in the project? So we were very fortunate to be awarded a grant back in, I believe it was August 2024. Through the Office of Coastal Zone Management in Massachusetts. And so we were awarded a grant through their coastal water quality grant program, actually. And you might be wondering, how on earth did Needham secure funding for a coastal grant? And the reason why is, as it just said, this project is right next to Alder Brook, which feeds into the Charles River. And the Charles River feeds into Boston Harbor. So even though we're all the way out here in Needham, this is really helping to support a coastal watershed project. So funding was awarded for design back in August of 2024. And we worked to get contracting set up through October. A site assessment was set up in November through December. That was done with beta. In addition, during that time period, we did a review of our existing records for the site. Draft concepts were developed this past month, in the very beginning of the month in January. Our project team, which includes several Town of Needham staff, in addition to Beta and CRWA, met to do an initial review of the draft concepts. And now we're at this stage, which is highlighted in red, of reviewing our concept design and doing outreach with the public. So we had a meeting last week and presented this same information to our stormwater bylaw working group. And so now we're presenting it this evening to get input again from folks. These next couple stages are yet to come. We'll be finalizing these concepts with Beta later this month. And then from March through June 30th of this year, we'll be going through the process of getting this project to 100% design. And I do just want to note that during that time, there's going to be several more opportunities for public input. We will have a resident survey. We'll have another public meeting like this where folks can provide more input on the project. So there'll be more opportunities for folks to kind of weigh in as we move this project from draft concept to 100% design. And I will also just emphasize again that this project will be wrapped up for design by June 30th of this year. And that's because it's a grant funded project. And so that's what we've committed to with that grant funding, just so we're all on the same page about schedule. So with that, I will turn it over to Chris at Beta, who's going to talk us through the draft concepts.
Thanks, Gabby. Thank you all for being here. As Gabby was saying, I'm with Beta Group, the engineer who developed the draft concepts. So next slide. So here you can see a site plan of the DeFazio parking lot entrance. To your south is the playground, top playground. And then to the north is the actual parking area for the top playground. And then this area, as Gabby showed earlier, was the location for flooding to the right, where we have what is proposed as a bioretention area for the parking lot. And as you can see with this concept design, we've regraded the parking area such that it instead of we dropped the bioretention area down about 2 feet, such that we have enough slope, about 2 to 2.5% slope, to provide enough runoff to this bioretention inlet control structures. And as you zoom in, if we could zoom in a little bit to the next slide, yep. And as you can see here, we have in the concept design 2 basin control inlets, and this will help with catching any sediment coming from the gravel parking area, as we're anticipating to have some level of sediments due to the gravel instead of having a paved parking lot. And so these sediment control structures or sediment catch basins inlets will be ideal for easily cleaning out for the DPW operators. And then within the actual bioretention area, we are proposing a volume of about 1650 cubic feet worth of media for storage of the stormwater. And this is sized to account for a 1/2 inch storm event. And within this bioretention area, we'll have various vegetated native plantings to New England. The next slide shows a little bit more of the renderings that we have. So you can see the gravel lot in the front area. And then within there, we have our granite curbing, which will help with grading of the flow to those basin inlets. And then within the actual bioretention area, we have a naturally looking wooden fence with signage. If you could go back, sorry, Gabby. Within the fencing, we have like a informational signage area, so that could be useful for anyone who's interested in learning about why this bioretention area exists. And then next slide. And then in here, you can see what we are recommending for native plantings. So we have inkberry, some low bush blueberry, some nannyberry, switchgrass in the central area of the bioretentions, and then some coneflower to provide some, flowering plants that are good for pollinators, birds and bees and such. And all of these plantings, we took into consideration, partial shade from the existing woodlands to the right of the parking area, as well as wet and dry soils, depending on the time of year and how much rainfall is provided.
Thanks, Chris. So yeah, we are happy to turn it back to folks now to get questions, hear feedback as well. The questions that are shown on the screen right now are questions where we feel like we could use input from the public on what they'd like to see at the location in particular, but this is by no means the extent of the list. So happy to open it up to folks, and I can stop sharing too so that we can all see each other.
And if you don't feel comfortable speaking, you can also put it in the chat or chat me and Gabby, and we are happy to kind of read that out if you guys have questions or comments you guys want to add. No worries if not, if people don't have questions. And this will be, oh, there we go. Okay. So many people walk through this path in this area. Is there going to be a walking path?
So there's not a walking path planned within the scope of this project. So this is really limited to the area just along the wooded portion on that corner of DeFazio. So I will say like this project should not impede walking in that area at all. But there's not a walking path planned with this project. It's really focused on the bioretention area. So improving flooding and stormwater runoff and water quality. That's really the emphasis.
There was quite a bit of work done in the fall around this area. Can you describe how this relates to the work that's already been done?
Justin, do you want to take that question about
Sure.
the reservoir? I think that's what the question is.
Yes.
Yes, so you may be referring to the work we did over at the reservoir.
Yes.
That is a completely separate project from this. So they're not connected in any way. That was a separate project in order to do some dredging work at the reservoir, which in turn is working towards the same goal as far as trying to manage our stormwater storage in town and deal with the treatment of the water bodies, but it's completely separate. One other thing to speak to the walking area in this general vicinity, although there isn't any sort of trail or walking path to do with this project, as part of the previous project this fall, we did design and build a connector path from the DeFazio facility to the Amity path over by the reservoir. So if you've been in that area behind our storage yard there is an ADA accessible path that we're still working on, an actual screening barrier between the yard and the wetlands over there. But you'll be able to walk through over a small bridge, and there's a ramp and some steps over on the reservoir side to kind of connect it to.
Thanks,
Gabby,
Justin.
Gabby,
Oh, yeah.
Gabby, I'm wondering if you could put back up the presentation and put up the slide that has all of the multiple projects that go to the Alder Brook plan, and maybe I can address where some of the confusion might lie with some of these things.
Yeah. 1 sec.
Okay, right there. So the area that we're talking about is way to the left of where the reservoir is. All of the work that was done in the fall is around the reservoir area, which is to the right where Gabby's pointer is right now. As you can see on here, we identified 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different projects that go with this entire Alder Brook area to address stormwater quality and also address some flooding concerns as well. So because of the large scope of all of these projects altogether, as well as the quite frankly, large cost to do all of them at the same time, it was determined that it is a better option to phase them in. So basically, take them one by one, piece by piece, and kind of separate them and put them together, and they'll become one cohesive, complete solution once they're all done. It's just that it will take a significant amount of time to complete them all. So by starting with this project, it leads into when the next project of the wetland restoration portion, which is right below it, happens. The water that is feeding in through that bioretention basin that we're recommending is then cleaner and less likely to add to stormwater pollution and things of that nature. As the same with the next project, whichever one comes up next, as we move downstream of that, it just further enhances each of the individual projects. So the 10 projects altogether is the Alder Brook area as a whole, but this is just the 1/10 of the Alder Brook overall project component. I don't know if that clarifies it at all for anybody who is listening. And I know it's a little bit confusing, but it's more advantageous for us, manpower, and also funding wise to break these up into separate sections.
Yes, that's helpful. And maybe we could talk about this offline, but on the existing DPW building where it says buildings being relocated, since my house is directly across from that, that piques my interest in wondering when that's likely to happen and what would, if anything, would go in there. But again, I realize it doesn't relate to what you're really addressing tonight.
Well, it does relate a little bit, because right against it where you see the project of stream restoration. So basically the building currently abuts right up to where the stream currently is. So it's not allowing we want to be able to return it back to natural flow and have it do what it's supposed to be doing. There's been a lot of discussion, and I believe there is actual plans in place to actually move that building or remove it and put it someplace else. What that will be, it's at least a couple of years out, and I'm not entirely sure. There's a couple of proposals out there or things that we're looking at and considering what would be most advantageous for us to do, but I don't believe that there's been an actual decision on the building and where it would be ultimately going. I believe that building would be removed altogether, if I'm not mistaken. Justin could probably tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I don't want to get too off topic, but yes, so that facility will be a phased reconstruction, and ultimately the existing building will be moving further away from the stream in a different configuration, while also reusing some of the existing structures that are in that same area.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. And there's one more question in the chat. There's a question from Kay, which is, will this project improve the water quality entering the river from Alder Brook?
I mean, ultimately, yes, this project is treating the sediments coming from the gravel parking lot. So Yes, it is. But in terms of Alder Brook, this is a much smaller project in comparison to the larger phase of all the other ones shown before. So as time goes on, water quality will be improved based on different stages of the project.
Great. Any other questions, comments about the designs, anything like that?
One
I believe,
question. Oh, sorry.
yep, no, go for
I
it.
was just gonna say one question we often get from folks, I know it hasn't come up yet, but I'm just guessing some people are wondering this, is what about construction funding? Because we do only have this project funded through design right now. And I will say that we don't have a construction funding source identified yet, but we are actively identifying grant opportunities and other outside funding opportunities to try to support construction of this project. This project is not included right now in our capital plan, but we are cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to pursue grant funding to help fund this project. So stay tuned for more on that. Hopefully we'll have more news later this year.
Yeah, Ross, you have a question?
Tap to speak. All right.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I'm very glad that you're doing this work. I'm wondering to what extent and how the town can learn from this work that you're doing. For instance, a previous presentation you made, there were design solutions offered, and as I recall, I might be wrong on this, but I seem to recall that the #1 solution was stream restoration. I don't know how the other ones ranked, but I think it would be really valuable to watch and learn from the procedures, processes, and how you come to your, conclusions and your recommendations. And as people learn, it might be these procedures might be used in other places. This is not the only place that in town that's subjected to flooding.
Yeah, I think
I'll-
Ross, oh,
I
sorry.
was gonna say, I'll take that one if you want. Basically, so all of the projects that we're currently working on with stormwater and flood specific are definitely ones that we use as a basis for potential application in other areas of town. So we have had a recent project, several recent projects over by Walker Pond, which is something that we used as a learning tool to see what items worked, what didn't, what things were best understood or best improve the quality of the water over there. You are correct in that stream restoration is a very big part of this and something that would be very advantageous to the area. However, again, because the building impedes part of that project, that one's a little bit more complicated with a few extra legs of consideration that we felt we couldn't actively pursue at this time until the determination of what goes on around that area is determined a little bit further and is a little further in the design process. But you are correct overall that each project or each step that we take towards completing this area of restoration is a learning tool that we use to apply to other areas of town. Every area of town has its own little idiosyncrasies that kind of change what we do or how we approach something, but the same basic concepts or process is what we move towards. Thank you. That was a good question.
Thank you, Kim, for taking that one.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think there's been a lot of information. Gabby, I don't know if you want to add anything else to.
No, I appreciate the questions that were asked. I guess I'll just emphasize again that we are happy to take feedback. So if folks think of other items later, please feel free to reach out. I can drop my contact information in the chat so folks have that. But there's going to be multiple opportunities for more input and feedback as we move through design. Again, our deadline is June 30th for this year for design. So I hope folks will continue to track the project and weigh in with input and other thoughts.
And my only other addition is if you know anybody in town and want to encourage people to support the project, by all means, please do. We always welcome public support because that gets us farther than even finding funding sometimes.
Great. Well, I just wanted to say thank you all for coming. You all should have my contact info from signing up. And I know, Gabby, if you want to put your email in the chat, but please feel free to reach out to us if you have questions, comments, things come to you later. We're here to kind of be a resource for this project for you guys, so you guys can learn more. So thank you all for coming. Have a good one, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.